What do you got? It's your boy Newfie Steve back at it again, and today I'll be showing you guys my summoning necromancer on Project Diablo 2 Season 11. So let's dive in. So they referred to this build as the Green Goblin build. I bet you could take a good guess why. My character's all green. This is the first season I played this build. I usually do play necromancer. I usually play a full summon build. Similar to this, but a little bit different, or I play fire golems. I'm gonna jump into the items, the skills, and go over a few things, then show you guys some gameplay. So, first things first, we're gonna go over the items. Some items I still need to replace. This character's like 90% finished, you could say. Just a few things that gotta be changed around, and maybe some better things. But for the gloves, we're using grave palms, and the main reason we're using this is for the +1 to summoning skills. For the ring, we're using wisp projector, and the main reason for this is the +1 to all skills and the heart of the Wolverine. For the belt, we're using the arachnid's mesh for the +1 to skills. And for my other ring, I'm using a BK ring, mainly for the +1 to skills and the life. For the boots, you're going to want marrow walks, you're going to want a +2 and a better slam. I do need to replace these. For the shield, we are using Phoenix. We use this for the redemption aura. So this allows you to continue blood warping without any major problems, no mana problems, all that great stuff. It also has 4 to maximum light res and 8 to max fire res, which is really good. For the armor, I'm using a 3-socket Templar's Might. The reason we use this is for the Might aura. So ideally, you would want an 8 aura with 3 sockets. Usually you put 15 jewels in this. I went the poor way, just so I can max my res a little bit easier. There are other routes to do this. For the weapon, this is one of the main pieces. You're going to use a beast. Ideally, you want 10 fanaticism. Mine's only 9. And for the helmet, we are using Sheko. You want a +3 skills on this. And for the amulet, we're using a +3 to summoning skills with a +1 slam. And ideally, if you can get this desecrated with another +1, that's the route you want to go. So item-wise, it's pretty simple. What this is all about is buffing your mercenary. Your minions also get the buff, which it helps them. But a lot of the damage you do is going to be coming from your mercenary. And I'll show you her setup. So for the mercenary boots, I'm using goblin toes with 30 enhanced damage. For the belt, we're using razor tail for the pierce and max damage. For the gloves, ideally you could use grave palms, and the reason why I use these is for the deadly strike. But I think steel rends might be a better option with an enhanced damage slam. So I'm probably going to replace these. And for the armor, you're going to either want something like this or a fortitude, or a lot of people like to use innocence for the blade shield. Because when you're blood warping, you're going to blood warp right on top of mobs. So this is also very handy. Everybody likes a little bit of a different playstyle when it comes to this. For the helmet, you're going to want a 3-socket G-Skull. You want a lot of enhanced damage and max damage for your mercenary. For the bolt, I'm using something with enhanced damage and deadly strike. Ideally, you want something with a enhanced damage slam, max damage, and deadly strike. And the main weapon for the mercenary, you're going to want a demon machine, something very similar to this. This could still be a little bit better. You want to get as much enhanced damage on this as possible. Right now in town, my mercenary is doing 3.6k. We're going to go outside of town and buff up and do a quick review. So my mercenary is now doing 6.2k. That's a lot of damage for a bow mercenary. So, as you can see, Mercenary is very strong. It can still be even better. If I was to replace my Teamite with an 8 aura, Beast with a 10 aura, the damage would go up a nice bit, and replace some of these items with enhanced damage stuff. You can get your Mercenary up to probably like 7,000 or 8,000 damage, which is ideally what you want, which is very strong. I'm going to quickly go over the skills. What I did was put 1 point into bone armor, and I like to put 1 point into desecrate, so it makes it a lot easier to resummon minions when I need to. For curses, we only put 1 point into amp damage. You're going to be casting this a lot, so this is kind of a must-have. For the summoning skills, you're going to max skeleton mastery, warrior, skeletal mage, and skeleton archer. Then we're going to come down, put 1 point in here, 1 point in here, and come down and get 1 point into iron golem. Now I will say my iron golem is using a pride rune ward, and what pride does is it can roll anywhere from an 18 to 20 concentration aura, so that's a big buff for your minions and your mercenary. It's kind of an expensive way to go, because if your iron golem dies, that's what, anywhere between 4 to 6 HRs down the drain. And you're going to want 30 points into blood warp, so it does not have a cooldown. And then any points left over I put into golem mastery, just so I can summon some more blood golems, and it gives more health to my iron golem. Pretty simple. For my stats, I put a lot of points into strength, just to where the Teamite. Then I put so many points into vitality, and then I put the rest into energy. The real way to do this would be using 15 jewels on your Teamite, so you don't need to put that many points into strength. And a lot of people like to play all points into energy. I find that's only ideal if you have a lot of life. So you would need a lot of lifer GCs, something like this, across the board. I just have a lot of plain ones, one FHR one, and one with 36 to life. And you would also want some SCs with res and life. But that's not my setup right now. Like I said, a lot of things you could change, little things to make things easier and better. But that's my current setup. I put enough points into vitality so I'd have about 1100 life when I was BO'd. And then I put the rest of the points into energy. Now, I'm going to quickly show you guys a tier 3 map and how well it does. It's quick. It's viable. It can do any content. It doesn't have any trouble with resistances, anything like that. It's a fun build. It's different. I would highly recommend to anyone try this build. very strong. It's very fun. It's a different type of summoning Necro. The Mercenary does the majority of the damage. That's why it's so great to have the Mercenary with the Demon Machine, and you're getting those multi-shots off. It's a pretty fun build, I must say. I will say it's a bit more on the expensive side, that's for sure, but I would highly recommend this build to anybody. It's different. It looks cool. But that's it for this video. Hit the subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.